bit scared. Look at the on-air thing over there.
We're taking over hospital radio right now.
This is the hospital radio takeover.
You got the jungle queued up, yeah?
Okay, yeah, here it comes. Here it comes. Incredible. Here it comes. What are we listening to? Remark. Oh no, who's the Essex junglist?
Oh, there's bear of them, man.
No, you know, with the big white beard, like he looks
Ray
like
Keith.
Yeah, Ray Keith with he's like drum and bass Santa.
Yeah,
I love
he's
him.
Mauritian, right?
What?
Yeah,
I want him on the podcast sometime.
yeah. I can line that up.
He's an Essex boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do you want this
We
one?
love him, man.
Yeah.
Ray Keith, Hotbox, where we're going later. Ray Keith was doing loads of live shows from there during lockdown, like live streams and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
He's wicked.
Yeah,
I love him.
Yeah, he's a remarkable guy.
Yeah, what a legend. I'm just going to do the intro, yeah?
Go for it.
Cool.
Don't worry, you know, it's not this aimless. We get to the point.
Don't worry, I've had your voices in my headphones for the last like 3 hours. So I feel like I'm just like in the world now.
Did you feel like a bit amazed when you met Sangeeta for real? Like she was like a celebrity you've been listening to?
Oh,
That's
stop.
the joy of podcasts, isn't it? Is when you listen to podcasts, you actually feel like you know the people.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I love it. It's my favourite format. It's so much more laid back and less formal than a radio show or anything that's planned. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And we get to get really amazing guests in, like Jean-Claude.
Yay.
All right, so I'm going to do the intro. Let me have a little slurp of water first.
Go for it. I'll do my coffee.
We're in Essex. We got the water. We had opera singer last week.
We did.
Water.
Got her to do an Essex opera. It was wicked.
It was amazing.
Wow.
So here we go. Here comes Nick. Welcome.
That was you.
That was epic, wasn't it?
Whoa.
That was like Thor putting his hammer
That
down.
really was.
Welcome back to Are You Creative podcast. And tonight we're coming from Chelmsford Hospital Radio Studio, or Hospital Radio Chelmsford as it's written, but which is upstairs from City Sound. And so nice to use their facilities. We feel very professional, don't we? It feels like drive time.
It does.
Or I feel like we're here for Live Aid, like Live Aid recording, like, you know, with all our headphones on and all the mics and stuff.
We're going to start singing in a minute.
Exactly. So
I look forward to it.
we could do, but we're going to release it as a Christmas charity podcast.
Oh,
Hang on. Hello, Jean-Claude hotline. Do you need a Jean-Claude in a hurry?
It could be a call coming through. It could be a question, Nick.
We can get a Jean-Claude to you in the
Somebody
next...
might be calling through to the studio. They might know.
Yeah. Need a Jean-Claude in a hurry.
It's good that it happened now.
No, I love it. Do you know what? I bet this is going to be someone amazing as well.
There's only one person that's bring that long.
Oh my God, I was doing such a good intro then as well.
Oh, you was.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, Dad, I
Because you
need...
didn't pick up.
You're like, Dad, I need more V-Bucks.
I needed the 20 quid 2 seconds ago.
I need more V-Bucks, Dad. I need a new skin on Fortnite. All right, you back in the room. Get your cans on, mate.
Yeah, get me cans.
Get your cans on. I'm going to do the intro again.
Yeah.
Where did I get to? Oh yeah, we were just chatting anyway. All right, so
But yeah, I knew it was going to be one of my two girls anyway.
that's good. Yeah, I got quite a way through it. Anyway, I'm Nick Kern, so-called creative expert. Having a lovely week in Creative Land this week, and I'm here with Sangeeta, my co-host.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
You like to do Mitra, Sangeeta Mitra.
I do. So Sangeeta Mitra.
Exactly, from New Generation Development Agency. And you're listening to Are You Creative, which is a podcast about creativity from in around Essex, just literally anything to do with Essex and creative. We want to inspire everyone to get more creative. Like Sangeeta, you feeling more creative?
I am actually. I'm getting there. I still feel I'm getting there, but I'm getting better.
What a year. This is the last podcast of the year.
This is. I know. I'm
And
really excited.
Since you started, I've noticed like you're so much more creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Exactly. Since we've started, you've started a podcast, you've put on a festival,
Yeah.
you started another podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wearing more leopard print. I know, all these things. And today we've got an amazing guest, Jean-Claude. Now, hello, Jean-Claude. You're allowed to talk, by the way.
Greetings.
You can say greetings.
Bless up.
So, Jean-Claude, I just need to check your Essex credentials. Can you tell me your Essex connection?
Yeah, I'm born and bred. Yeah. I grew up in Brentwood. I was actually born in Orsett.
Okay, we're just checking his passport. Yeah, okay, that all looks in order. Yeah, okay, he's got his stamps. Because he has come from London today.
Yeah, and I figured out the other day that I've actually spent more time in South London than I have lived in Essex at this point of my life. But yeah,
that's all right. You're back to renew your passport. That's right. I just put a stamp in the book for you.
Thank you.
All right, brilliant.
Thank you.
And Jean-Claude, are you creative?
I am definitely creative.
Yes. Now, I think you're going to have to tell us about what you do, because I know you're a man of many talents and you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you've been on a really fascinating creative journey as well. So tell us what you're up to at the moment.
Yeah, give thanks, Nick. So what I do is it's one of these, it doesn't really fit a job, but that's why I had to leave a job. I'm a bit like you. In fact, we left kind of similar sort of time.
We did. We're going to get on the origin story later. What are you up to now?
So now what I'm doing is my company Lionbeat, I've positioned it as an advocacy for bass culture.
Amazing.
So essentially, I represent for black and bass cultured music. So,
Can you tell us what bass culture is? Because a lot of people won't know, including me.
Yeah,
And me.
and you. Cool. So bass culture is like, a lot of people know the term sound system culture.
Yes.
And that talks about the big sound systems from the Caribbean, which are undeniably from Jamaica originally, and then spread out there and then traveled to Europe, you know,
So
the migrations. But bass culture is where those meet with the European natives and latterly the diasporic African. It kind of brings everybody in with a sort of uniform love for bass.
Amazing. And let me just take a step back here, because sound, when you talk about sound systems from Caribbean, we're talking about the big stacks of speakers with the really, really heavy bass pumping out, you know, dub reggae and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of double-edged awesome. But if you love it, it's awesome. If you hate it, it's also awesome.
The sort of thing that's going to shake your windows out and
Absolutely.
and gets your nostrils going when you're in front of the speakers. So what happened to that? Like when it came to Europe, then you're mentioning like this is like sound systems coming to Europe, becoming bass culture.
Yes, yeah, it's fascinating. Apparently, it was a lot of post-war technology was lying around in the Caribbean, and a lot of engineers from those islands. I mean, I suppose like I say it's like Jamaica, but I know like people like my professor, for example, come from Guyana, which is more like South America, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there were people that just ritualistically loved to dance.
Yeah.
And loved the music and just wanted that music to be as loud as it possibly could be. It was just a fundamental element of the culture and the projection of the culture. And a lot of the time it was happening outdoors as well, not in halls.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have halls.
So were these like public events?
Yeah. Public events set up outside that drew in crowds from hills and gullies.
Oh, well, mate, you could probably hear it from a long way away. It's like shaking your windows. What's that? I've got to go and investigate. And before you know it, that's it. You've been dancing 8 hours.
Exactly.
Wicked. So what happened when that came over to Europe?
So I suppose I'm like recounting here. Like I'm not, you know.
Oh yeah, story time with Jean-Claude. Yeah.
Because I wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that old.
You know, I'm getting on, but I'm not that old. But yeah, no, I'm recounting. And from what I've understood, you know, a lot of these people came over with a variety of migrations that have happened, you know, and we all know about that from the Caribbean. I actually travelled there partially on the Windrush line, as it's now been rebranded for South London.
Yeah, was that yesterday they unveiled the Windrush line?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we lovingly refer to it as the Ginger line. We quite like it like that. But,
So it's been the East London line, now the Ginger line,
Now
now
the
it's
Ginger line.
now
Love
the
it.
Windrush line,
No,
which is
it's
brilliant.
Windrush. Yeah, so it brings you down to Lewisham. And but you know, there were lots of other types of migration, as I pointed out. And I mean, my fatherland is Mauritius, so we come from the other side of Africa, you know, east. And there's been a lot of contributors to this scene from a variety of nations. But in those earliest days, it was definitely Jamaican, Caribbean, diasporic. And a lot of them came here to work on the buses. A lot came to work in the National Health Service and other I suppose more menial kind of work that, you know, there wasn't a local population able to do and needed that service, and they've become part and parcel of this country now.
And then they're smashing out the sound systems at the weekends and the evenings, like.
It's part of your cultural expression, isn't it? You know, that's how I always, I've learned to be quite disciplined with my language around this and to sort of position it as something that is ritualistic in these communities. And as such, he's worthy of protection and recognition as such as well, you know, as in it needs to be recognized as ritualistic in these communities. And therefore, if ones are trying to stop it happening, that's a problem.
Yeah. Is England and sort of, you know, because I know like England, when the bass culture came here, it was adopted and welcomed so much by like, you know, white people as well, and everyone understood it and everyone enjoyed it. Is that quite rare, or do most countries that bass culture goes to sort of picks up in that same way?
I don't know how deep we want to get into it, but I mean, obviously, it's like there's a variety of histories that you could associate with it. So it's definitely that cohort that you've identified, and you know that mustn't be diminished. It's you know, it's so crucial that we recognise, you know, those allies that sort of gathered and rallied around these communities and made them feel welcome. Because don't forget the signs that were up in those times. It was no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
Yeah,
you see. So it was definitely a hostile environment that they were arriving into. We can't possibly just look to the joyful aspects that we know do exist and have existed and continue, thankfully, to exist. But it was tough, and then the context has remained so, I would argue, as well, in a lot of ways.
I've always found it like really inclusive. Like whenever I've been like, cause I've been going to sound system stuff since like the 90s, I suppose. Yeah, with Zion Train and University of Dub and stuff like that, and yeah, always totally felt welcome at everything.
That's the beauty of the ritual, right? Because that is what it's about. And if you listen to the pronouncements in the music, they're literally talking about that. You know, there's no ambiguity. It is about peace, love, and unity in the dance. It is. It is. So yeah, you're right.
So we like, let's fast forward now to like 2024.
Yeah.
So what's Lionbeat doing around this area?
So it's definitely now an advocacy. So I define us as barristers for bass.
I love that.
Yes.
You know I love the law. That is amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, when I did leave Essex, when I was 18, I went to Hull University, and I wanted to study law. I don't know. Maybe my parents wanted me to study law, but you know, I was I'm going to study law. But I had some qualifiers there. It was like I wanted to be far away from home because I'd found it quite difficult to live my culture where I was actually growing up.
Yeah, Essex was a lot whiter back then as well, and a lot. I guess I
was literally the only multiple heritage kid in my school, like in my year. Do you know what I mean? There was one. There was a Lamptey black guy who's had Ghanaian heritage, and there was a Patel, and that was it. That was it. So I don't know what I can say on the radio, but I got called some very foul names.
Yeah, don't say those names, please. I don't want to even hear them. Like, it makes me feel bad. But, right? I'm sorry for you having to experience that.
Yeah, it's difficult because I can't, unfortunately, separate that from like the genesis of my experience.
Yeah,
it is part and parcel. It's crucial information that actually sort of, I suppose, informs the way that I act daily. And in terms of like having a child of multiple heritage as well, and like just being in a position, fortunately for me, to represent for communities as well, creative communities, cultural communities, local communities as well, you know. I feel like I need to do that forcefully, and that kind of lived experience actually tells me how important it is to do that and to do a good job. So that's why I say the barristers for bass.
All right, come on. So we're in the court of Jean-Claude now, right?
I'm loving this.
Yeah, the court of Jean-Claude.
I'm loving this. You know, I'm ready with my questions.
Okay, Sangita. Yeah, just I'm getting the engine warmed up, right? And then we're gonna let Sangita loose, right?
We are getting there.
Tell me what you're up to with your I said barristers for bass. That's a different thing. That's like making coffee with bass. But tell me what you've been up to with your I can't even say it now.
Barrister.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's it. Guilty. But as it, you know what it is? You probably saw the flipping subtitles on the video that I put in LinkedIn. The brilliant team that made it, they are excellent. They're called Making Numbers, a team out of Peckham, young people.
Oh, brilliant.
And they've taken over a studio space in an old garage complex, which is run by a great friend of mine called Nicholas Akulu, who's a powerful community leader in South London, in Southwark particularly. And they made us a brilliant film of what we did at Somerset House this year, to answer your question.
Amazing.
We've sort of it took me nearly 3 years to negotiate the license to do something in that venue, but it's a fantastic space, and it is a marker of sort of arriving, I suppose.
I've got to bring this to life. I've got to bring this to life, right? Yeah. So Somerset House, for people that don't know it, is this grand, massive place on the Thames.
It's a palace, right?
It's a palace, yeah, and it's got a huge courtyard in the middle. It looks like, I don't know, it looks like something out of some fancy painting.
It's about 250 metres from Trafalgar Square.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, you can imagine these big merchant ships coming in back in the day with all this money and all the rich people living in Somerset House. It is fancy pants, right?
Yeah.
In the middle of that, we've got a dub sound system, right?
No
and
way.
not any dub sound system, Lion Pulse, which is
Oh my God.
which it is the most beautiful sound
How
system. I think we got to
inspirational
say.
is that?
Lion Pulse is the prettiest sound in the UK, and I'm very happy to say that because that happens to be my younger brother's sound system as well. So,
Amazing.
yeah, but it's not even like partiality. I think it just sort of tells you something about my family and how we approach this. And it is a family affair because I feel like part of the reason my brother and I are so passionate about creating safe environments for people to enjoy themselves in is because that's what we had when we were children in the home, you know. So my mum and dad's parties were famous. Yeah, my dad's great.
What, here in Brentwood?
Yeah, they were.
They didn't get shut down then.
No. I mean, can you imagine? He's gone from his dad's party to having one at Somerset House. Imagine that, like escalation. Where'd you go from that? Like dub sound system on Mars or something.
It's so true.
No, man, we got plans. Trust me. Yeah, I can.
I don't doubt that there's plans for a dub sound system on Mars.
But I think we should talk a bit more about Somerset House though,
Yeah.
because earlier on in that day, we did load in my brother's sound system. It was great. But early on that day, we were working with this organisation called the Black Unity Bike Ride.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're now a registered charity, which is not an easy thing to achieve for
That's
an
right,
organisation, and but they've managed to do that in their 5th year of operations, and it's a huge ride out for the black community that like to cycle.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody's welcome, but there is like a preponderance of black people in the peloton, and that day we brought about 2,000 cyclists.
Amazing.
To the
That
courtyard.
is amazing.
And hang on, I think I might have seen you on a bike there, and you had a sound system on your bike.
That's part of my trademark.
Honestly, Lionbeat does not go anywhere without a sound system, even on a bike ride.
No, so that's where it becomes. We sort of step over this line from advocacy into production.
Yeah.
So production now I'm doing under the name of BASIS, and not a lot of people know this, but it's actually an acronym. And BASIS stands for the Bass and Sound System Institute Streaming.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we're advocating for as Lionbeat fundamentally looks like, at some point, as soon as possible, the oversight of the foundation and the initial 3 to 5 years. Well, foundation, build, and the initial 3 to 5 years of operation for an institute grade building for bass culture in the UK.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I think we can all back that.
100%.
But listen, don't get that building and shake it down instantly, right? With one of these sound systems. I saw Lion Pulse right at Somerset House, and his hand was on the slider, and he's like, I can't turn it up past about 1 out of 100 because there's sound restrictions there,
right.
and
Really
he was
tight.
ready. He was ready to like rock the window panes, you know.
Walls
Amazing.
of Jericho. Yeah, that's what that equipment's
He said.
designed.
Can I go back to your journey of you've come out of Brentwood, you've gone to uni, you're doing this lawyer's thing that you don't really want to do, but that's the only thing you're kind of thinking that you're doing because that's what your parents have told you. How did you get into music? Like, I know that it was a family thing, maybe on a Sunday, playing a bit of music, or everyone's coming over on a Saturday and we're all chilling in homes because there's different cultures. I guess that's what we did back there in the 70s, 80s. We kind of kept it that tight knit. So for you growing up, there was that element of that music sound bit coming in, I guess.
Yeah.
But what made you go from thinking, okay, barrister, lawyer, but actually I love music, I want to get into this?
I think it's always been contingent. I would say, like, it's sort of, there's a term from Rasta that I love, which is they talk about liberty, and that is your entire. It's just who you are. It's just what you seek to manifest. Insofar as you're an individual walking on the earth.
Can you say that word?
Liberty.
How do you spell
Liberty.
that?
Livity.
Cool, man.
Liberty.
Yeah, liberty.
All right.
It's a lovely concept, and there are lots of these in Rasta, I find. But yeah, when I got to university, I suppose I'd said that I'd kind of looked to get away from Essex because I wasn't finding this culture like around me. And then when I went to Hull,
How
Was
much?
it all there?
Yeah.
Say less, right?
Oh.
But there was to be fair though, this is what was wonderful. There was one, and this is why these places are so important, and there's lots of them closing every week in the UK at the moment. These small box nightclubs, you know, black box nightclub. And
You're not talking about the Adelphi, are you?
Oh, well, so that I wouldn't classify that as a black box, but of course that was a crucial cultural centre, the Adelphian Hall. Yeah. So that was a really good spot, and we did go there actually. That tended to be more like DJ food, pork recordings, and like more kind of the hip hop and sort of like trip hoppy kind of edge of the spectrum, because I was there at a good time musically. It was like 96 through 2000, so it was an interesting time.
So what's happening at this other black box place?
Yeah, so that was called The Room. Yeah, The Room was legendary, and I remember walking up one night and just seeing this kind of tricked out Land Rover, all blacked out, parked outside, and it just said the number plate pretty much just read Bookham, and it was LTJ's Bookham.
No.
Yeah, LTJ Bookham's
R.I.P. Conrad.
R.I.P. Conrad, man. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure, I can't recall, to be honest, who the MC was that evening, but he may well have been in the house that night. Yeah, we used to just go down there and just do two Budweisers and a little enjoyment, you know. And but they had like Doc Scott there from the Metalheads. Goldie would pass through. Groove Rider was there. It was
all drum and bass and jungle legends.
It was, yeah. JJ Frost would be up there, but it was quite well curated. And just enjoyed raving there. So taking that home, but back to student halls and stuff like that. I had a pal in the block next door to mine. And we just met on the top deck of the uni bus one day, going from uni to back to the halls. Yeah, because, you know, the way you dress and so on, you can kind of tell a lot about another person just by their comportment in that way. And this fellow, Nick, his name was Nick Gray, and he had techniques in his bedroom. So
these are decks.
These are decks. Even I knew
he's
that.
Got exactly. But you know, some of our listeners don't. He's got the Technics 1210s in his room. Yeah, he's got the.
And it was lovely, and like I suppose like between those kind of nights, there was a good one at the student union as well. There were student promoters that were keen to get those same types of names through the actual union building as well, thankfully. So we all got like a realm in which, or a couple of realms in which to coalesce and just sort of see beyond perhaps who we lived with on campus, who was who and who was into what. You know, then there were the really cool like London kids were there. As well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I bet you're a cool London kid. I bet you didn't say I'm from Essex. I bet you said I'm from London. I'm from East London, East London, East London.
Honestly, I wasn't confident enough to do that in those times. I was like, I'm from Essex. Just carry real with it, you know? But yeah, that was cool because like, you know, maybe they'd been like raving already. So obviously I'm only 18 at that time. And, like, I didn't really get into raving like early like some people do. I think if you grew up in London, more time people were raving from like 16.
That's right, yeah.
I'm so envious of them because they caught 94 and 95, which was like the crucial years of jungle music, you know. It was a very, very exciting time. But yeah, nonetheless, we all kind of got together and like, seriously, I mean, Nick, you know very well, like, you know, in terms of that social circle, we remain connected to this day. That's not how Nick and I met, but but Nick knows several of my friends that I know from uni days.
Oh yeah, everyone's musical creators, DJs or promoters and doing stuff, because you got to remember, like, there's loads of people that consume music and consume going out, but it takes real special dedication to put the stuff on.
Yes.
It's a labour of love, and often you don't make much money from it. You've got to you got to do it because you love it and you want to keep the scene going.
Yeah. That's very, very true, man. Yeah, definitely. So we kind of went from Nick's bedroom. There was a guy called Ed who had like a really good vinyl collection. And do you know what? The other thing, we were very, very fortunate because we were the last year of university intake where you didn't have to pay fees.
Yes, mate.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it meant that whatever money we had was
yours.
Maybe a bit more disposable.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we would support the local record shop. There was one, but, you know, Nick's wearing a Stussy hat there as well. It was the only place you could buy Stussy in Hull.
Yes.
You know, and they have other brands like Billabong and stuff like that. And I feel like all of this stuff is important because when we talk about this culture, it's like it does come with the clothing brands.
That's right,
you know, and it does come with the food and it does come with these other forms of creativity that are, you know, absolutely fundamentally tied to the music. But what I love about the music is the music can be on, you know, on the Saturday morning when you're doing your hoovering.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, that was our house, you know, like I used to love it when I woke up and I could hear music playing already, because then I knew everyone was in a good mood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of safety in that, you know, and I suppose that's something that I definitely like find consonant with music, is just like a realm of safety.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, I've come to believe, like particularly recently, that is what really motivates me.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I actually bring together this consonance of music and safety? I always say,
I
like,
love that.
Our goal is like to see grandparents dancing with their grandchildren.
Amazing.
Which you did at Somerset House. And
Thank you. Yeah, we did, my man. Yeah.
it was so cool. Honestly, it was so mad to see the difference of people there as well, like ages. You see some, like, you know, some super posh people go through Somerset House, and to see them like grooving away to a bit of dub and having to go on the skipping, which I love that jump skipping. Double Dutch was brilliant. Yeah. And, you know, everyone was getting stuck in. Yeah. I mean, it helped. It was a really sunny day as well.
Yeah. It's well, we were blessed, weren't we? We were just blessed. It was fantastic.
So is that something you'll now be doing each year? Is that something that's embedded, say, in South London in their cultural strategy locally?
It's such a good question, Sangeeta. I think that's always... it's part of the issue, right? Is just sort of overcoming that sense of jeopardy that is attached to those types of questions, and me just being able to forcefully be like, yeah, of course we are.
But
you know, we're not quite there yet, but we're certainly working towards it.
And do you feel you're getting support locally? Because I think the biggest buy-in is communities, right?
Yes.
If people attend and it's a want, and there's then evidence of that need. Now, I'm going to go with Essex, because I've only been here 20 years. And even in 2024, for children of colour, it's very difficult.
Right.
We're finding a lot of kids that are going back to London to get their creative careers back in, and they're not getting opportunities locally.
Yeah.
So where you're saying that you're doing this now in 2024 and it's like South London, for me, I'm a little bit surprised, because I'm like, oh man, I thought they would have had something like this embedded like a long time ago. So I'm hoping, if you've done this year, where, as Nick said, it's amazing to see the older people dancing with the youngers and doing and getting involved in things like skipping and things like that, old school things. It would be really good to see that embedded. But I understand that in order for that to happen, you do need the buy-in from local councils and councillors. And
that's why I've adopted this advocacy position.
Brilliant.
It's just sort of like, I did a law degree, and I also did a year as part of that, which I feel is, again, it's very important. I did a 4-year degree. So for one of the 4 years, I went to France.
Amazing.
My degree was law and French. And I feel like that gave me a really important global perspective. And actually, I was interested in my studies. I actually was. I didn't like jurisprudence. I found that dry as crackers. I didn't like... do you know what? I didn't like criminal law. The thing about the UK is it's such a country of laws.
Yeah.
So apparently, anyway. You wonder
debatable,
at the moment.
yeah.
But it truly is debatable at the moment. And we can all read about that in today's papers, you know, paper from today and this week. Like, I recommend people to it, because they're very, very important questions that are being considered in this time. But criminal law has been established for like 600 plus years.
Yeah.
So there's not really anything new. Like, it's just the application of the law. What I found fascinating about the law was where it was still alive and where it was still being authored, you know. So it was sort of, again, that time, 96 to 2000. It was all about the EU law and the Human Rights Act that were coming in, and, you know, lots of equalities legislations that stem from that were actually taking effect in this country. Important principles like proportionality and all of this. So I feel like on a show talking about creativity, it is worth considering actually just how you push those types of envelopes. And that's what I've come to realize through my practice, is that you can sort of have this ambition to get people dancing and to put loud sound systems out on a variety of spaces at a high frequency. And my thing, incidentally, is to not have it isolated to spaces like Somerset House. I'm grateful, and I'm glad that they've welcomed us after quite a long time of my having to advocate for our presence being valid in that type of arena. It was difficult, but now they've accepted it. I remember I got a text from the head of events on the day that just said, "This is brilliant."
Yes,
amazing.
with an exclamation mark. So that's nice. But really, truly, what I'm trying to do is to bring it at a high frequency into our communities.
Yeah.
So I suppose the vehicle that I'm using to do that is important.
It's funny, you're talking about law.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, you're talking about 96 to 2000.
Yeah.
And I'm just remembering the middle of the Prodigy Music for the Jilted Generation album cover. And I don't know if you can remember this, but there's like a rope bridge. And you got the police on one side and you got the ravers on the other side.
Yeah.
And there's a guy cutting it like Indiana Jones. But what was mad at this time, this was the criminal justice bill coming out, trying to stop people from gathering outside, stop people raving, stop people having sound systems.
Yeah.
And we needed the barrister of bass right then to come in and not only do law, but set the sound system up on the other side.
I think that's a challenge, really. And I feel like it speaks to my cultural heritage as well, in terms of being like multiple heritage. My motherland is Ireland, and so I do have that kind of like white European identity as well. And to a degree, like some of that privilege, perhaps in terms of like the education that I've had and so on and so forth. But yeah, just never, ever lost that, the sense of how important it is to actually fight for what it is that you want, or that you feel it, that you need, especially when you're justified.
Yes.
In that sense, I've never been able to let that go. I just won't.
But also, people rely on creators to create the change and the things that they want to see, right? You got to have people out there putting stuff on, and like you put on Somerset House. Obviously goes without any incident. Everyone's super happy. Great feedback from everyone. So it justifies doing it again. But I suppose there's like worries about like putting on sound system events and things that, probably at somewhere like Somerset House.
Yeah.
They're in a room with a chandelier and it's all posh and stuff. And they're like eating cucumber sandwiches and be like, ooh, bass. Scared of the bass.
Well, because I could take it like into the other part. I talked about my privilege, but I can also talk about my experience in like being with the cultural communities that perhaps haven't like ever had that, and actually am very suspicious of power structures, and understandably so. Lots of artists that I've worked within, like, they have been traumatized because they have also been brutalized by the sort of forces that are in play. There's lots of stories of exploitation, there's lots of stories of deals that were authored that were just terrible, for the people that were involved.
This is Sangeeta's favourite topic. She's like an energy vampire, like the guy out of What We Do in the Shadows. Like her eyes light up with these stories.
You're so naughty. Yeah. But sorry.
It's true.
Go for it. Sorry, Sean.
I'll let you two.
No, you go for it.
But anyway, no, I'm like, I've just seen people that are very, very suspicious of these power structures. And so what I realised was that as somebody who could be perceived as like an angry black man, that was actually part of the challenge. Is just like, right, okay, this is a problem. The rage is validated. It is justified. Well, I say it's validated. It's not validated actually by broader society, but it is justified, I think. And I suppose actually I've just set it out for myself, haven't I? You've got to make the argument then. You see,
absolutely.
That's the thing. You have to convince other people, and the modes through which you do that have to involve creativity. Because even putting the argument there in the first place, and the way that you construct the argument, and the patience with which you're going to do that, because knowing that you are actually operating within a given system. Like the sound level that day was like 93 dB, which is like, imagine my brother's sound system is a Rolls Royce, it's like leaving it idling on your drive. It's like you're not even left. You're like, it's a nice thing, and you can get in and have a look at the leather, and like, oh yeah, that's cool, but he ain't taking you anywhere. Like
it was, like we say, it's the prettiest sound system. It looked good. It looked good. It was a work of art in there, but we didn't hear the real work of art, did we?
No, that's it. The solar plexus test. I remember like Tenafly. I used to work with Tenafly, and he's one of my favorite people I've ever met in my life, and he used to call the music like the big dub or jungle cheese, called them womb shakers.
Womb shakers. Tenafly's voice was a womb shaker anyway.
Well, this is it.
Mate, when I came to your barbecue once, I love this. Like, I was doing the barbecue and Tenafly came up and he went, hang on, I don't want to be racist here. Like, but I've got to do his voice, right? So, he's like, give me one of them burgers. And I was like, oh my God, you could sample that and make it like the greatest drum and bass track ever.
Well, I think you just laid out the sample track there.
Do you know what I mean? That voice coming out of nowhere, and it's like, oh my God.
Tenafly had the most incredible voice, and he just had this like really natural function over like controlling his diaphragm, like projecting in a certain way. I just saw a film last night, actually, the Stevie Hyper D movie.
Nice.
I have to recommend that to everybody to go and see. Yeah, it's really, really powerful.
Is there any Tenafly in that?
There is a wonderful and very a very acute mention, which is just delivered at the right time, because I sort of like remembered him a few times. Jonathan Sutter, a great MC from Brixton, aka Tenafly, named himself in honor of the great tenor saw from Jamaica. Mm-hmm. So that was his lyrical inspiration, his style and pattern inspiration. He worked a lot with Top Cat, who was named himself a Super Cat, you know?
Yeah. Remember that,
But also Tenafly, important for me because he sung on Freestylers B-Boy Stance, right, which was my tune that I loved when I was younger, and also Tarantula by Pendulum.
Okay.
Which is also another one of my favourite songs.
They're big tunes. Those are big tunes. So I would wheel you back even a little further into his catalogue, and I would talk about tribal bass.
Yeah.
With the Rebel MC.
Oh yeah.
And so for me, growing up again in Essex, like, and being like as an 11, 12-year-old child watching TV, we watched Top of the Pops.
That's right.
It was huge. Top of the Pops was huge.
Yeah.
And so to see these multiple heritage guys on Top of the Pops with this raucous sound, which clearly was doing very, very well, because you wouldn't be on Top of the Pops unless you were on the top 40, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mate, little Nick Hearn was at home. I knew all the words to Street Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did Rebel MC Street Tough. I love that one.
Yeah. So that was the softer side of it, right?
That
exactly. Was the side that was more palatable for the labels and what have you, you know? And actually, when Rebel made that next work, that was him kind of eschewing that. But that album, I don't think they supported it as much.
That's right. He Trojan horsed his way into like the industry there with Rebel MC Street Tough, and then he dropped the real bomb. Here we go. We're getting back into the Jean-Claude timeline here. We've swapped in Jaden, the Ragga Enforcer, now for Sangeeta. He's going to ask some questions.
All right, then. So, firstly, pick up yourself, man. Thank you very much for coming down. Yeah, man. So, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that you talked about already, really. So, I seen like your Instagram page, innit?
Okay.
So, I was just wondering, like, what's it like the upcoming? What's it black cycling thing you got on the 20th of December? I think it is.
So I mentioned the Black Unity bike ride, and then slightly confusingly, but nonetheless truthfully, there's a Unity bike ride as well on the 20th. So they're actually two different events completely. So one is with the charity that I mentioned, the Black Unity bike ride charity, and the other is with my guy Veral, who's a very important person in the network that we've established. We did an event in April, this year, and it was called BCCS, which kind of is one of those like marketing things. I was like, how can I say bikes without saying bikes? Yeah, and actually, or rather, how can I come up with an acronym that would read as bikes? Yeah. So, but it looks
like a bike going past really fast, doesn't it? The two C's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that bit. Yeah, I need to get the graphic designer on the case with that. But yeah, that was my intention. There's two C's there ready to be made into wills. But the BCCS is the Black Cyclists Change Makers Solidarity.
All right then.
So that was the idea. So through this gathering, we put through Lionbeat quite a few people into the room. We had a very important panel. We had Georgia from Loud Mobility. So Georgia does a lot of advocacy for women in cycling. We had a guy called Phil from a company called Upcycle, who does a lot of work in Angel Town in Brixton, with young people on estates, getting them into cycle maintenance and building up bikes and what have you. We had Veral, who's the leader of this event, and Veral does a lot of outreach work with the homeless, and he's extraordinary. He's not a charity. He does this completely off of his own bat. And he's operating in that independently, just from a sense of what a decent person should be doing, in light of the homelessness crisis.
So Jean-Claude, I've seen a lot more and more black people get into cycling, because I've seen that bike storms was really kicking off the last few years as well.
Yeah.
And, they rode past me once when I was in a traffic jam, and I was like amazed how many cyclists there were. And it looked fun. It was chaos.
Yeah, you're talking like 1,000 plus. Yeah, 1,500. And the police are involved as well. So, but on the 20th of December, Veral's event, we got the C86ers. That's the name of his team. And they use normal bicycles and some cargo bikes, and distribute arms to the homeless, and that's like an all-city kind of London move. Yeah.
When you say arms, it's not like arms, like weapons. It's like ALMS, right?
Yeah, gunshot. Yeah, but I deliberately use that word because it's sort of like a bit slightly archaic language. Yeah. And so when I say it, people ask to clarify, what do I mean?
What do you mean?
I mean to provoke the thought. As to whether it is this or that, because
when you say arms, you're talking about food.
I'm talking about ALMS. Yeah, I'm talking about the type of. I'll cite his work precisely. So it is like brand new things. So Veral uses only new goods, and so rather than taking secondhand things and what have you, it's all like new sleeping mats with built-in ground sheets, it's warm jackets, it's sanitary products, it's water, it's
nice. So is he taking them around in cargo bikes then? Yeah,
so last year we had probably about 80 members went out, and I think this year, what's lovely about the room that we arranged in April is that there's a creative confluence now happening. So in that space of the Black Cycling change makers solidarity, what we're seeing is people like Veral working with Georgia, and Georgia giving Veral her space in Camden to launch that in December.
Nice, so real community.
So, it's proper solidarity. That's what we're experiencing, and that's part of the practice that I am focused on augmenting in this time, in terms of really trying to amplify that type of methodology in work, when you actually bring like-minded ones into conversation, even into the same time and space, because lots of them said to me after the event, like, this was a really good event, like, thanks for this, like, we all know each other, but we've never actually been in the same room before.
What I love is, like, you're like charged up with these superpowers, right? You're charged up with the superpower of the barrister. You're charged up with the superpower of business as well, but you're charged up with the bass, right? So, like, you can bring them all together. You can make things happen. Yeah,
that's a good way of putting it, Nick. Thanks for that. Yeah, because I did, like, after the uni, I did have like the city career bit as well, which is maybe something that's worth sort of thinking about a little bit, that orthodoxy, because you do learn a lot in business in terms of how to sustain creativity. I mean, fundamentally, sustaining any business is your greatest challenge.
100%.
You see.
I mean, on that note, so you touched on that you did the law degree, right? Okay. So what kind of areas did you touch up? Did you study in law exactly?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for asking me that, because I was on that train of thought earlier and I derailed. No, you're quite right. I really enjoyed the public law. I really enjoyed the public law. So there was like French elements of public law, and then there was public law in the UK, which includes public order, which, when Nick was talking about the Prodigy cover and like severing the link between the citizens and the police there, as in representatives of the state, like, that's what we're dealing with. Looking through the lens of public law helps you to establish actually what a government can do with regards to its citizens and what is totally out of order and contestable. And that's the point, is like sometimes just looking at those points of, right, okay, I think I can actually make an argument of this. And so then
you know the rules of the game, right? You know the rules of the game, and you can play the game and elevate. Elevate everyone.
Yeah, and what I really love about that, and I suppose like it infuses my practice. Like I'm quite zealous on the knowledge point. You know, I feel it's really important to be across the intelligence. You know,
I bet when you left it, like you were like, "I just dropped my law in the bin, drop my business in the bin. I'm not going to use this. I'm not Jean-Claude, the bass ambassador, right?
Yeah,
the ambassador of bass, barrister of bass. But then all these little bits are coming back, and you're like, actually, this is incredible. Like this, I've got a Swiss Army knife here of things I can do. It's
a big synthesis, man. Yeah, because like even like when I left uni, like I didn't practice law. I don't know if you know, like if you want to become a barrister, which is what I particularly wanted to do, difference between a solicitor and a barrister is that, you know, like they work together, but it's the barrister who's going to stand up in front of the judge and argue a case.
That's the one,
Right? So whereas the solicitor is going to be doing more of the technical side of things. Exactly. So
it's like the hype man.
But he is an actor, or she is an actress.
I've heard about these summing ups. Like they'll go on for hours and hours and hours.
Absolutely. And they will employ dramatic to dramatic effect. I mean, another one of my friends, I believe her chambers are Garden Court Chambers. Sharina, she's a Nevisian, which I didn't know existed until she broke that down for me. But yeah, St. Kitts and Nevis. She's a Nevisian. And she's massively inspirational for me, because whereas I looked at becoming a barrister and actually decided that it wasn't for me, because when I was you have to go to these dinners, right? And you have to present yourself at these dinners, and you're not getting paid to be there, right? And there's nobody's even like giving you a scintilla that you're going to be paid to be. You've just got to go and present yourself, and you've got to talk to people. And you know, this is going back like 25 years now, I suppose. It was a very, I don't know. I don't know what the environment is like now, but I know that then for me, I found it a very hostile place, because if people are asking you about your interests and you're saying like, oh, well, I love music. Oh, really? What kind of music do you like? Oh, I like reggae music and jungle. Like, oh, like, you know.
Yeah, that's a conversation killer.
You know, but what are you supposed to do? You know, if that is what you're about, then, you know, I'm not really about to try and reparse my identity, you know, so it fits in somebody else. Precisely, exactly.
And well, actually, it's really interesting. It's so interesting you're saying that, because actually, you know, just talk about Jaden now for a minute, because Jaden's been studying law, right?
That's right. But listen, man, it's not all about me.
No. But what I think is really interesting is you're sort of struggling to find your place within that law world as well.
Oh, I love
that.
Because
it's so homogenized, and like it's quite. You know,
I'd love to hear that you're sort of puzzling that out, but I love to hear that you're actually taking on the challenge. Yeah, because it allows me to frame answer a bit differently as well. Yeah. I did employ it. That's the thing. So I got a job with like I was working at Reuters. That was my first job out of uni. I got like a contract with them, and that was just like a systems based role, but it was cool because they're a media company and they were building their media database, and the project was to build their contact database. So as the person doing that, it meant I got to see all of their clients.
Oh yeah.
So that was a very, very useful role, you know, to just get a lie of the land and just be like, okay. So
Jean-Claude's in the Matrix. All the data coming down is like just feeding it all into his eyes. Yeah, I love it.
It was great, man. And I had a guy called Ian Porter, and he was like a Jamaican guy that hired me in there. And he was a great manager. He was my first manager in the city. And he gave me lots of counsel about how to present myself. Like if you walk into a big building, you know, you can't be fazed by the reception desk and so on. You need to know who you are, what you're doing, you know, why you're valid in that type of environment, and to completely own that and present yourself as such. And I'll never forget that. That was very important coda, like for a young person. Advice. Yeah, really important. You know, you walk in, you say who you're there to see, what time, etc., and you present yourself. Boom, now it's over to you. So, but then moving on from there, I actually got I took a little break. I went to Mauritius for like 4 months or something, and then when I came back, I managed to get another job at Reuters. This time I was in the employee equity division. That was very interesting. So now I'm looking at the share options and the incentive payments to executives.
Oh, hello.
In the company. So now I'm dealing with contract law.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with marketing. but that's governed. You know, you got to be careful about the way you market these types of things. So you're dealing with like financial legislation, Financial Conduct Authority, HMRC, governing bodies, and reporting on taxes and that kind of stuff. So actually all of those things and dealing with compliance and knowing that you have to actually ward your staff and your department so that you will always withstand probity from a compliance point of view, you know, that's another lot of creativity. I remember using
hang on this chat has got so far away from base culture. I can't believe
we're
it.
in the weeds.
We're in the weeds. We're literally we're hearing about the rule book for financial industries.
Yeah, but it was all tech. That's why it was a lot of tech. I remember using like European Communications Act 2000 and seeing that actually you could computerize systems, and that's how I got in the organization, because I would present good business cases.
Yeah.
You see, and what was good about that while I was working there was that all of my spare cash, I used to say, some people like to play golf, I like to put on parties.
Yes. Yes.
and it was the same, because I was like, if you want to play golf, you got to have a big car, you got to have the club membership, you got to buy all the equipment, you got to do this, you got to do that, right? It's a lot of your time as well. And I'm like, I'd rather like pay the mad professor to come with the African dancers and like put on a dance at Cargo and Rivington.
This is amazing. So like these parties you were putting on. Yeah. So I remember you were putting them on Herbal.
That's right.
Herbal, like little club in Shoreditch on Kingsland Road.
Yeah.
Then Cargo. I mean, Cargo's big, man.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Back then.
And you're
one of the top ones.
and you're using the financial corporate world, but you know it's your pay, and it's not like you're embezzling money, but your pay to prop up these parties.
That's
and they
right.
were brilliant as well.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, we did some great parties in those days. I feel like what I liked doing also was trying to be smart with the lineup in terms of having that headline component that you knew we're going to get sort of 150, 200 people through the door, but in a 500 capacity venue, then programming the middle of the lineup with up and coming people, so to give that showcase element. I guess there's nothing massively pioneering or novel about that, but it is something that I stayed very, very true to. And the good thing about that as well was like it allowed you to really grow your network, because you were meeting different people every time you did a gig, you know, and a lot of the music that we did was live as well. So, you know, you'd have a band with like 3, 4, 5, 6 members, you know. Some bands were crazy. Do you remember like Imperial Leisure? I mean, like...
Mate, we played about 10 gigs with them. Those guys are mad. They're still going.
But there were about like a dozen of them.
Oh, there were so many. But it was never the same band any gig. The different people would turn up all the time. But it was brilliant. They always brought a whole crew down with them as well. It's really fun.
Yeah, and that was the point, wasn't it? And it's testament to like the nature of that kind of work, the fact that even that's why we're here. That's why I'm here together with Nick right now, because this is how we met.
Exactly. I think that's really interesting though. Did you ever have any sort of rule in your head about, you know, when you get your budget for a night, how much you're going to put on a headliner, how much you're going to put underneath?
Yeah, roughly. And we had subsidy at some point as well, which was useful. So we were working with the Institut Français, which was, so the French Institute.
Oh, ambassador.
Yeah, that is me. Yeah, exactly. I'm always spoiling people, you know. But in the dance,
it's rolling out the Dub Rocher.
And I have to say, like, you know, sometimes I really was, because like I remember like looking around the venue sometime, and there would be like, you know, about 115 people in there having an amazing time with like brilliant music happening. And I'm like, I'm having an amazing time too, but this is going to cost me a lot of money.
What I like about those parties though, because a lot of promoters will look at it from a pure financial standpoint. I think what you were doing was putting on the party you wanted to go to, because you had food when a lot of people didn't have food at events as well, and that mixed lineup as well.
Yeah, that's true. We had like board games as well, didn't we? We had like Carom and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like we used to get money from this French institute who had a remit to promote French language, and that helped to subsidize some of our lineups. But yeah, generally, like little like the headline slot, budgets for the middle, and then get my pals in to DJ and ply them with free drinks, you know.
You know what? That's really interesting you're saying that, because at the minute, Like that's kind of been sort of what I've been trying to do around here in Chelmsford. You know, grow something where you're playing music that isn't often founded as something people would come together for in a club. Like around here in Essex, as you know, it's not necessarily like how it is in London, like your East End part or Brixton or whatever. So playing your dancehall, your reggae, all of that kind of thing, it's not something that's often found around here. So me, as an events organizer, as a DJ, I try to put them events out myself and also take up on an opportunity to push food as well.
I love that.
You know what I mean? So, you know, I just find that really interesting that you catch up upon that, because you know what? Even doing it, you see, although maybe you're not getting your 600 people coming at one time, you still see them maybe 25 people that will stay from 2 p.m. till 9 p.m. You have it in the daytime.
Yeah.
And, you know, it becomes bigger than making the money. Although obviously, you know, it does bring a tear to your eyes seeing that little 9 bill drop from your bank account and all that. Yeah. But at the same time, it's that community difference you're making. Yeah. Because that 25 people, they've taken an impact you made from that.
Yeah.
Do you know what
and
I mean?
You're all now important to one another.
100%.
Right.
And it's like what you said earlier about, you know, you made know the people through networking opportunities outside of that, but then you brought them all together in that one space. And then all of a sudden you realise, oh, that's an opportunity to work with them from then on.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I think a big thing in art and creative, you know, music, filmmaking, anything, is if the thing you want doesn't exist, you can make it. Yeah. Right? And that's like, if the night you want to go to doesn't exist, especially in Chelmsford with an underrepresentation of black culture, you make it. And
could
honestly,
be a great opportunity.
Jaden, as someone that's putting on those events, is now super culturally important because you're starting that in Chelmsford, and those 25 people, that really, really matters to them.
So what I've kind of come to look at it, you know, like my practice now is very formalized around this, which is a bit of a curiosity now that I kind of step back and look at it a little bit, but it's like, it is, because clearly I think it is of crucial importance. And what I've learned to do now is talk about it in terms of like economic theory, right? And so essentially what our primary measure for the success of a venture normally is how much money did it make?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's the spreadsheet. Yeah.
It is, right? It is. And those things are important. Of course they are. Nobody is denying that. You know, in order for something to be sustainable in the society that we live in, it does have to make money, or it at least needs to, you know, cover its losses. Yeah, wash its own face. But what I've learned of late is of the writings of a fellow called Bourdieu. And this is a paper out of one of the big I think it was out of Harvard, actually. I'll find out for you. But he talks about social capital, which is that connectedness, those 25 people, right? You're building significant social capital. You know, me and Nick, our kind of manifestation of social capital is sustained over more than 2 decades now, right? Yeah. And it's bringing us into this kind of communion in this space now. You know, it's valuable.
Now it's come to Chelmsford, because I've moved to Chelmsford, and now you're in Chelmsford talking to Jaden.
There you go.
Look at what we're kicking off.
Right. And that is it. That is how social capital works. It is valuable. It's crucially valuable. It's that kind of networked connectivity. The other thing you can look at there is cultural capital, which is a superpower. You know, it's like, if you're not of that culture, then it's inauthentic for you to try to represent for it, you know. And we know that happens all the time, but we also know that the best type of representations is when it's authentic. Like, think of ODB from the Wu-Tang Clan, you know, like think of these like
Jamie Oliver from Essex.
Well, quite though.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, but absolutely, it's this sort of
owning
like irreplicable like presence in your context.
Yeah.
You know, it's just something that it's indelible. Nobody can take that away from you. So that's the cultural aspect of it, and again, that's very, very valuable. And then the fourth type that he identifies is symbolic capital, and symbolic capital is like it's sort of that the fact that we've now done an event at Somerset House and everybody recognised that as an accolade, that's symbolic capital.
Mate, you got the photos, it happened.
Exactly.
You got the videos,
We've
it's
produced
real.
the evidence.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly.
And you can't take that away. You can Google it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, you know, we got from the Creative Impact Club, which is based out of the Future Strategy Club, which is a really interesting creative agency based in Peckham. We received their Impact Award last year. So awards, that, you know, those types of things are symbolic capital as well. This guy's got the most, like, because he gets an award every podcast.
Yeah, I got a few last week. You know, it's a bit embarrassing to talk about it.
But you know, Nick,
I'm having an extension built on my house for them.
You see,
yeah, the awards wing.
Nick's built an extension on his house out of symbolic capital. So how can you say it's not valuable? You know, it's that sort of like, it's that thing though that accompanies the journey, and it is important because, like, if you start to plot that then over 4 types, I believe if you've got lots of social and cultural, your logical growth areas are economic and symbolic.
Wow. Yeah.
And do you know what? It's quite common sense.
Yeah.
Really.
Talking about the symbolic though, right?
Yeah.
The fact that Jaden's put on an event and 25 people have gone to it, but I've got a printed flyer from that at home.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's in my flyers.
Yeah.
Like your flyers are in my flyers as well.
Beautiful, man.
You know, that exists forever, that flyer.
Yeah.
And the photos of the event, it was a real thing. It happened.
Yeah.
So you can now go to anyone and tell them, I promoted this night, I put this on, here's the flyer.
Yeah.
And then it just builds from that. It becomes bigger and bigger. It's like me with my band.
Yeah.
I'll flash a promoter a photo of us playing to 9,000 people at Download.
Yes.
We're a big band.
Yeah.
You know,
that's right.
We're not the sort of band that you. Yeah, I know, but I know, big deal, kind of a big deal. But you know, but then it's like, well, no, we're not going to play like on a hay bale to 25 people. This is us. Project yourself as the way you want to be, and have those receipts.
Yeah, because where did you start?
Started at the bottom.
You see, and if you hadn't, then you wouldn't have had that journey, especially a journey as peculiar as this one, you know, like as any of ours, to be fair, you know, and I think that's the thing, is like, it goes back to that authenticity point, you know. So one thing that I've looked at in that nexus then, in terms of like the challenges that you face as a promoter and trying to do things, particularly as one, you know, from minoritized communities, is that sense that often, because of structural exclusions, you don't have access to land, right? You don't have access to a venue. You don't have ownership of a venue, that's for sure. So that means every time you want to do something, money has to leave your community to enable it, right? So that's something that I saw was a really big problem. And what I divined as a way to sort of approach that or contend with that was to put the big sound systems onto cargo bikes. So rather than needing to get my 25 people into a club space or whatever, I can just now pull up in a park with my loud bike.
All right, look, I'm gonna paint this picture for you, right, listeners. Now, Jean-Claude has an electric cargo bike, and it's got a big long nose on the front of it. You know, like the wheel's quite far out, so it's got like a big space to put stuff on. Yeah. And on that little bit at the front, there's a sound system. You've got your little mixing desk sort of thing on the handlebars, haven't you? You can drop your party horns and stuff, your air horns. Do you want? Have you got any ready? You know, like these and stuff. So you can play your music.
They're never far away.
Exactly, they're never far away. But what's amazing is this is entirely decarbonised. You're running completely off electric as well.
Yeah, that's right, and I feel like that's become the. I mean, I knew it from the start. You know, it sort of removed a lot of the problematic areas of producing sound system culture. The thing is with sound systems is that they're big, heavy sets. You know,
mate, I don't know how Lion Pulse can transport his thing around. It's massive.
Yeah, the Super Scoops are about 180 kilos each. You know, they're heavy bits of equipment. So yeah, they're big, heavy sets. You need big trucks to move them. You need heavy set guys to lift them. That makes it kind of a patriarchal endeavor as well, which sort of pushes women out, which is never a good thing, I don't think. No. You know, it can do anyway in that part of the logistics specifically. And from what you saw in the 80s and 90s, I believe that did affect performance as well. I think you saw fewer women on the stage because they weren't involved intrinsically in that part of the distribution and delivery of the works. And the unfortunate thing that I've seen lots of people that own sound systems is that they're in lockup, like, 90% plus of the year in terms of time. Like, they're just locked up. It's really sad,
Set the sound systems free.
Yeah, let it go. But then, like I say, if you start letting this grade of sound system free, like,
mate,
we're gonna have very, very noisy communities.
Even when they come out, they're not allowed to be run free, like at Somerset House either.
Exactly, that's the thing. Yeah. So there's a lot more work to be done on that side of the advocacy. I told this peculiar anecdote. Like, there's it's not even an anecdote; it's the truth. But on Peckham Rye, there's a terrain where you can go, and it's really quite big. I don't know what the rules and regulations say about an Aussie rules football pitch.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's got to be at least, I would say it's at least 40 metres in some sort of...
It's the size of a cricket oval is an Aussie rules thing, I think.
It's quite big space, right? So in Peckham, you've got a huge space designated to play Aussie rules football.
Okay.
But there's no space designated for sound system culture, which is endemic to the borough. You see, so these kind of peculiarities are things that I point out, because I think that when you frame an argument in that way, it's sort of, why don't the Caribbean community have a space to practice their ritualized dance? Why don't the Nigerians have a place to, like, sound off and play Fela Kuti loud outside and, really indulge their culture that way? Because the thing is that these are not exclusive modes. Like, everybody loves this music.
Yes.
Or everybody that as a vibes about them anyway,
Yeah. So
there's always going to be that one person on their broomstick,
Exactly. So we had this summer in Chelmsford, we had Choose Your Chill in Oaklands Park, where Chelmsford Museum is.
Amazing.
And Jaden, you were involved in that as well. We had like a reggae sound system there as well.
And, Sangeeta.
Sangeeta. Obviously, Sangeeta was the absolute mastermind of this thing as well. Jaden did the food.
Yeah.
But it is like that, popping up that community and that representation there. Yeah. And it was funny because it was a bit like your Somerset House, because Oaklands Park's this beautiful old country house and it's got a museum and stuff.
Oh wow. We'll have to see about 2025, see if there's some space for collaborations.
Exactly. But I think that's the sort of place where your bike can pop up, because you actually you cycled your sound system to Amsterdam, is that right?
So it wasn't, where was it? It was Haarlem. It was Haarlem in the Netherlands. We cycled out this way, out to Harwich. So you
left London with your sound system.
We left South London.
Were you blasting tunes all the way?
For a part of the way, tunes were running. There was a huge amount of goods that got transported. That was with a courier logistics company called Pedal Me, and they had this tradition. They still have it annually, that when they collect bikes from the Dutch manufacturer, they'll go mob-handed with more riders than they need, and then they'll come back with new bikes and they'll actually ride them back to the UK.
Amazing.
Which is a doable thing, because you can take your cargo bike on the ferry from Harwich to the Hook to Holland.
But that's amazing. Switch the sound system off when you're on the ferry, the standard line. They don't like that. They don't like the bass. They don't like the bass on the ship. And then and then you're out there in Hook Holland, and you can cycle through, and that's amazing when you're in the Netherlands and it's just set up for bikes everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And I was in Paris a few weeks ago as well, and part of the reason that we went there was to actually have a look at this infrastructure that's now been like propounded through the city since the pandemic, and literally hundreds of thousands of people are using it daily. So it's taking lots and lots of cars off the road. It's giving people a more joyful kind of refreshing and healthy, of course, way to travel to and fro.
All right, so when's the Black Bike Ride? What is it called?
Yeah, so
when you're going to Europe, because seeing 2,000 people out on their bikes to there with a sound system, that was going to be amazing.
Tokumbo, you see, they're coming for you, bro. Tokes, who's the CEO of the Black Unique Bike Ride, he put a post out on Instagram and he said, which city should we visit next? And people were thinking about UK, but I mean that doesn't work in many, like the UK is quite topographically, it's quite up and down, you know.
Oh, mate, it's motorways as well.
And yeah, exactly. Imagine like Coventry, you know, it's just like it's a motor car city, you know. It would be very difficult to do that. And people were suggesting other UK cities. Manchester was quite high up there. Andy Burnham seems that, you know, Manchester's proclaimed itself to be the city of cycling in the UK. But again, I was there in February, and they've got work to do, put it that way. But anyway, it's good to see that they've announced it at least, but it needs lots more funding. So I think, actually, to be fair, the new government have put about 120 million back in that the Tories cut. So that's only brought it back, though, to that kind of the amount that the Tories had already committed. But yeah, I said Paris.
Yeah, mate, honestly.
I said Paris. We should go at Paris.
So if you can do it on your bass bike.
Do your own Tour de France.
Yeah.
With the sound
system.
Yes. Sound de France.
Sound of France. And you know what's beautiful about France? And this is something that I would thoroughly recommend we import to the UK, is that they have normalized this thing. It's all over the nation. Every single year, it has been for decades, they have the Fête de la Musique.
Yeah.
So every year, there's a big festival for music in most major cities. Even smaller towns actually have it. So
what is that, just over one weekend or?
No, I believe it's spread all through the season. Yeah. So
it's amazing. So it's literally what is your town or city doing for Fête de Musique?
There you go.
Musique.
Yeah. And there'll be and you see, that's the French though, but
yeah, I know.
There'll be like municipal funding organised for that, and you know, and I suppose then that takes me back to my argument, which is just like, look, you know, you fund this type of activity. Look at how, because think about it, France, creativity wise, I mean, that's a global superpower in terms of creativity. There's no question about it. French animators, French set designers, French lighting specialists, French videographers, etc. France is a good name in creativity, no question. Where do young French people learn to get on the buttons? They learn it at Fête de la Musique. They learn it at these types of events. So that's kind of my thing, is that if in minoritized communities we have actually this opportunity to propound at a higher frequency what it is we're expert in doing, then our young people are going to get on the buttons, build the sets, you know, run the health and safety, run the security, run the logistics, etc., etc. And it just management, fundamentally, it's an economic growth argument. So one person I'm very happy was there with us at Somerset House, was a world-renowned economist, actually. Yeah. Her name is Mariana Mazzucato. And I met her at the start of this year through a group that I'm working with, which is led by Brian Eno.
Yeah. Who's, might have heard of him.
You know.
He's a pretty big deal. Jane, do you know who Brian Eno is? Have you heard of Brian Eno? Have you heard of Brian Eno?
Man said, that. Yeah, Brian Eno is into, I think I might let you do this actually, Nick. But yeah, he's an internationally renowned producer, that's for sure, and he's a multifarious one as well, right? Not just music.
Yeah, he's really, really culturally important. And it's too late in the week for me to remember anything that he's done now.
Brian's done things like sort of bring the genre of ambient music forward, but he's also like, as in from naught to, you know, what it now is with many other producers now sort of producing that type of music, but also like working with Roxy Music. He was involved in like the recent Top Boy soundtrack. He's projected visuals onto the sails of the Sydney Opera House. You know, I mean, the guy is just a creative powerhouse, and he's enabled to be that. He was like U2's producer, etc. You know,
that's
lots
wicked.
Of huge brands. So, but Brian is an activist, and Brian is someone who's very passionate about the state of the planet and mitigating climate collapse, and advocating for minoritized communities. He's a very ardent pro-Palestine supporter as well. And through his nexus, I've met lots of interesting people like Claire Farrell, who's part of Extinction Rebellion. But yeah, lots of different creatives.
So what's that collective? What is that collective coming?
So that is called Hard Art. And Hard Art is as a sort of study in community-led activism and what happens when you put collaboration before competition.
Yeah.
And we worked together to deliver their first big work, which was a real privilege. That happened in February this year. It's been a good year. I need to go back through my camera roll and put a proper sort of, you know, passage of what went down together. But we produced the Saturday night of 4 nights at Factory International, which is like a £250 million venue scheme in Manchester, based on London's Royal Festival Hall. They've got Peter Saville's signs around the place. Actually.
Well, of course, if it's called Factory,
Indeed,
it's got to be.
Indeed, yeah. And we produced the night for sound system culture there. We delivered for our peers and our clients, I suppose, the loud sound system. So we sort of were retained at Lionbeat to put that together, a vision of what sound system would look like as part of that type of event. But yes, I met Mariana in this nexus, and she's an economist that's advised top leaders globally, and put my arguments to her about base culture, and my equation. I have an equation for this stuff, and she's like, "You've arrived at economic theory through base culture." She's like, "I love this."
Brilliant, man. This is like freakonomics, though. Like economics are going to love this.
Yeah. So I mean, it's lovely because what I realized at some point was that I had to take this to maths, which is another amazing realm of creativity, in my opinion. You know, maths is like just beautiful creativity.
You're going to tell us you're the Pythagoras of bass now?
Yeah, you know, obviously we're not going to reveal it in an audio format.
No, I want to see this equation later, though. If you show me it, we'll burn it afterwards. So
down the pub.
Yeah. So I think, like, you know, with that math stuff, it's so important because I was at a talk today, and basically was saying you've always got to keep learning, right? You've always got to keep moving forward. Yeah. And it's amazing. Even these random skills are like a weird book you might read or a documentary you watch. Later on, it's like 10 years later, it'll just pop out and you'll be like, oh, I've got the perfect case study or this example of this happening or something to add. You've got to be curious, right?
That's right, man. Yeah, definitely. Curiosity. And then diligent. I one of my favorite phrases that I have in this time is being militant with your diligence.
Oh, mate, yeah, stick that on a T-shirt. Come on. Sangeeta, what are we going to get some flags maybe that now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just that proclivity to, you know, whatever it is that you're actually trying to do, to just be full on about it and, you know, get it to the milestones that satisfy you.
I totally back that. And the thing that I'd say to Jaden as well, right? Any job you can think of in the world, someone's got to do it, right? So, like, you know, why not? Like, if you think about Jean-Claude, when he used to work at Reuters, you know, like left that life to become like the barrister of bass,
working
right?
on the professor.
But look at him. Like, now he's in Manchester in Factory, the equivalent of the Royal Festival Hall, the Somerset House, putting bass culture out there, building up the Lionbeat thing. And, you know, you're probably going to end up being like 60 at some point, and suddenly it's going to be like the absolute leader of, like, professor of bass culture for Britain, which is going to be incredible. And people are going to say thanks a lot, because actually you got a next generation coming through. You got your next Jadens. You got your next people coming through.
Yeah, give thanks. I mean, I definitely have like my particular position in it, and I'm very thankful for that. But part of the joy of what I do is also bringing others through. You know, I'm not just saying that on a humble one, but it is real, because the reality is that these types of issues are not solved by individuals. You know, you really need to have great cohorts moving all in step, you know.
But someone's got to lead them, man. Someone's got to have a vision as well, and bring people with you.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. And then you can hand it over and just enjoy. You know, this is what I love. I've come to your nights so many times and enjoyed myself. But I know you've come to my nights as well. It's like it works different ways.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I need to come to the O2 actually and see what this is all about. Yeah, I suppose that just sort of doubles down on what you were saying to Jaden, you know, with that kind of degree of focus and so on, then all things are possible. And that's not to say
keep moving forward. Get your receipts.
Yeah.
Do stuff.
Yeah, it's not to say that it's easy and that it doesn't require sacrifice, because it does.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I regret, is that I feel like in terms of like cultural pursuits like this, they do actually require some degree of sacrifice. But yeah, that's why we try and balance it out with more kind of commercial activities sometimes. But yeah,
this is it. I'm constantly financially propping up my bands and stuff, but I'm just like, I love it so much.
Yeah.
I love investing all that time for free, money as well. Yeah. Hardly any comes back. Like, if you work out like how much money you're making from putting on events, doing music, whatever, it's probably like 5p an hour. But you got it forever, and giving people a good time and giving people memories as well. Yeah, exactly. And you know, just like today, someone said, "Oh my god, my kids still talk about that gig you put on like 3 years ago. When are you coming back?"
Yeah,
you know, like this is a special memory for them.
Yeah. And then that might inspire the next idea for you as well in terms of what you think is your next.
Oh mate, I've got the next idea. I've got the next idea anyway. Do you know? Basically, we're in Radio City. We're not in Radio City, mate. We're in Toaster City.
Toaster.
I told Sangeeta about this. Okay. Colonel Crompton invented the toaster in Chelmsford, right? And Gary Macaroni didn't even invent the radio here.
Macaroni.
Gary Macaroni invented the radio in Italy, right? And he brought it over here. Crompton actually invented the toaster here. So we are going to get Chelmsford renowned as Toaster City.
Amazing.
Welcome to Chelmsford, birthplace of the toaster.
Yeah. 5
settings.
Well, we've
each
got,
to their own, but I wouldn't go under 3.
We've got a mutual friend at the Design Museum who flipping loves her toasters. So.
Exactly. Oh, there we go. But they'd have to move the Design Museum to Chelmsford Museum because we are keeping this Essex. Okay,
man.
We're going to wrap up now.
Yeah.
Love that Toaster City.
Essex, a lot of stuff's come out of Essex. One thing I would say as well that's like really sent me as far as I've gone, it is jungle music.
Yes.
Specifically. And a lot of jungle like came out of Essex, Andy C, he grew up like just down the road from where I went to school in Hornchurch,
Yeah.
And the way that intersection happened then with East London and South London and so on, like I do like the fact that when I looked out my bedroom window I could see Canary Wharf and I kind of still felt like part of it, even though it was like my mum didn't believe me. Yeah, it's Canary Wharf. She's like, it's 40 miles away, you can't see it. It's like it's Canary Wharf. But
it's quite amazing. Like Essex was really important for rave culture and also like jungle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that because people think it's such a London thing.
Yeah.
But even when you look at it, Prodigy.
Yeah. Done right.
Amazing from Whittam as well, like
there you go.
And I can't think of a bigger or better dance
Prodigy's
act
huge.
Just ruled the world.
Yeah.
And that is Essex. And we got Square Pusher in Chelmsford as well.
There you
who's
go.
absolute, like, literally the most avant-garde junglist madman ever. Like, I prefer him to Aphex Twin, like this warp world.
As we said, Ray Keith as well. So.
Ray Keith, so much good music going on.
Yeah,
but this is what makes Essex special. There's something in the water, isn't there?
Yeah. So it
all blows from London over here, and then it just mutates, and we make our crazy art over here.
I feel like that's what we've sown the seed for tonight, isn't it? To start to push it.
This longest episode ever. Coming in, I think we'll be coming in at about like 80 minutes.
Got a lot of edits.
Christmas special, yeah, exactly. Stick a turkey on, and by the end of the podcast, it'll be done. What's that, like 3 hours? All right, so we're going to wrap up. So it's been amazing having Jean-Claude on here, and of course, we are going to say big thank you to Hospital Radio Chelmsford and Paul for setting us up. Normally in City Sound, we're just upstairs, now in the loft, which is pretty sweet. What an amazing building we've got here. Thanks so much to Jaden.
Yes, man, me not come for run, me not come for play. But the Rugger Fussa is here to stay. Big up yourself, everyone. Have a great Christmas. Yes, man.
So here we go. Jaden, he's normally on the knobs and setting up, but tonight he's been a guest interviewer. Thank you very much to Sangeeta.
Hey. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, and thanks so much, Jean-Claude, for coming. It's been amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, man. It's been a real pleasure.
I think you've been the most intellectual guest we've ever had, but it's been really entertaining as well. What Sangeeta looks outraged. What are you saying? Who's been cleverer than Jean-Claude?
Very naughty thing to say. Maybe a true statement, but it's very
intellectual.
naughty.
Look. We've had an economics lecture. We've heard about the 4 pillars of culture. Who can beat that? Maybe Mark Diaf will come on one day and drop some more knowledge. But until then, Jean-Claude is the king of intellect. The Lionbeat, yeah. Of course, if you want to follow us, it is on Instagram at r.u.creative.podcast. Sending your questions because no one ever contacts us. We've got lots of followers, but no one ever chats. I'm here for the chat. I'm there 24 hours a day.
Come on.
And thank you to Essex County Council for the equipment that we usually use, and New Generation Development Agency doing all the amazing stuff. And I should also big up Night Till Dawn.
Yes, man. Big up Night Till Dawn. Big up the wonderful Sangeeta Mitchell. Yeah.
And we got another you got another Night Till Dawn thing coming up, haven't you?
Yes, man. I'm in the works for that next year. What are we saying?
All right, watch this
End of
space.
June.
End of June. Watch this space.
Watch this space. You'll
All
hear
right,
more about
and
it.
we're going to go out. And Jean-Claude, you're going to hit us with some stuff on your soundboard. Come on, what have you got? What's your favourite sound?
Let's see. Well, there's actually one in here, but I can't.
What's that one called? Springy Toad. I love it. Thank you very much, mate.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Right, we're done.